If you're going to accuse me of breaking into your room, Mr. Hawthorne, you should probably let go of my hand first. Nathan Hawthorne opened his eyes. 1 second, he was asleep. The next, every part of him became still. Not relaxed. Controlled. Dangerous. His dark gaze dropped to our hands. His fingers were locked around mine, so tightly my knuckles had gone pale. Then he looked at me. At my black maid's uniform. At the chair dragged beside his bed. At the gray morning light cutting through the curtains. I had worked at Hawthorne House for 12 days, after putting nursing school on hold when my mother got sick. Long enough to know there was one rule: nobody tested twice. No one entered Nathan Hawthorne's bedroom without permission. The door opened behind me. 3 men in dark suits stepped inside. Ethan Mercer, head of security, stopped first. The other 2 stopped with him. Nobody spoke. Nathan still hadn't released me. His voice came low. Who let her into my room? My stomach tightened. You did. Ethan's expression shifted. Barely. Nathan's didn't. I did what? You wouldn't let me leave. His eyes moved back to our hands. Only then did his grip loosen. I pulled my hand away and rubbed my wrist. 4 faint red marks crossed my skin. He noticed them. Of course he did. Nathan Hawthorne noticed everything. I heard glass break around 2:13. I said. I knocked. You didn't answer. So you entered. Yes. Why? Because it sounded like someone fell. His gaze flicked toward the carpet. Broken crystal glittered beside the nightstand. A dark stain had dried beneath it. You were breathing badly. I continued. Like you were trying to wake up and couldn't. 2 unfinished years of nursing school were enough to tell me it was more than an ordinary nightmare. I was asleep. You were fighting something. His eyes sharpened. I should have stopped. Instead, I said, you kept saying Luke. The room changed. Ethan looked down. 1 guard shifted his weight. Nathan's face became unreadable. Leave us. The men disappeared immediately. The door clicked shut. Nathan looked at me for several seconds. Who told you that name? No one. Emily. It was the first time he had ever used my first name. Somehow, that felt more dangerous than Miss Carter. You said it yourself. His jaw tightened once. Then he reached toward the nightstand. Stopped. Opened the top drawer. Empty. Every trace of sleep disappeared from him. He checked the 2nd drawer. Then the 3rd. What is it? I asked. He stood. Did you touch this drawer? No. Did anyone else enter? Not while I was here. He crossed the room and opened the door. Ethan. The security chief appeared instantly. Seal the estate. No vehicles leave. Preserve every camera log before anyone touches the server. Ethan glanced toward me. Nathan caught it. She stays. I stared at him. Excuse me. My weapon is missing. The words landed like ice water. A gun had vanished from his bedroom, and I had been found beside his bed. You think I took it? If I thought that, this conversation would be different. That did not comfort me. Nathan crouched beside the broken glass and lifted 1 shard by the edge. I remembered something. Wait. He looked up. The water smelled strange. How? Bitter. Medicinal. His expression went cold. Not angry. Worse. Focused. 10 minutes later, Ethan returned with a tablet. Hallway footage. The screen showed Nathan's corridor. Timestamp. 2:02 a.m. A hooded figure approached his door, used something at the lock, and disappeared inside. 11 minutes later, I appeared. Nathan froze the frame. For half a second, the intruder's wrist caught the light. A silver watch flashed. Nathan stared at it too long. Do you know who that is? I whispered. No, he was lying. I knew because Nathan Hawthorne blinked twice. And suddenly, I understood the worst part. The person who drugged the Mafia Boss, entered his private room, and stole his gun wasn't an outsider. It was someone he trusted. Someone wanted you awake enough to survive, I said. Just not awake enough to fight back. Nathan looked at me across the library table. That's what concerns me. By 8 that morning, Hawthorne House had become a sealed fortress. Phones were collected. Vehicles were blocked behind iron gates. Staff members were separated while Ethan's security team preserved every access log. Nathan stood at the center of it all in a charcoal suit, looking nothing like a man who had been drugged hours earlier. For personnel, files lay before him. Only 4 people knew the secondary override. Ethan said, you, me, Richard Hayes, and Luke. Nathan's expression didn't change at his brother's name. Who reset it after Luke died? I did. Who verified the new code? Ethan hesitated. Richard. My thumb found the thin silver ring on my right hand. I twisted it once. Nathan noticed. I want to leave, I said. No, anger replaced fear. I'm a person, not evidence. His eyes settled on mine. For a moment, I expected another order. Instead, he said, you can move freely inside the estate. You cannot leave until I know whether whoever entered my room is watching the gates. It wasn't freedom, but it was an explanation. From Nathan Hawthorne. Apparently that counted as progress. Ethan's phone vibrated. Lab results. He read silently. Sedative. Non-lethal dosage. Enough to cause confusion and impaired coordination. Nathan leaned back. So they didn't want me dead. Not yet, I said. He looked at me. Exactly. The missing gun suddenly felt worse. Someone had wanted him helpless, alive, and unarmed. Nathan opened 3 folders. We give them something to steal. Ethan understood immediately. I didn't. What? Nathan pointed to the first file. Richard hears security saw a gray Mercedes near the east gate. Second file. Captain Miller hears it was a black BMW. Third. The driver supervisor gets a white van. I stared at him. None of those vehicles existed. Correct. You're setting a leak trap. A faint shift passed through his eyes. Approval. If Romano asks about one of them, we know which channel is compromised. And if it's Richard, then we prove Richard's channel leaked. That's the same thing. No, his voice remained calm. Suspicion is not proof. 3 hours later, Ethan returned. Romano's people are asking about a gray Mercedes. My stomach tightened. Richard. Nathan closed the folder. Richard's channel. Even now, he refused to jump ahead of the evidence. I was beginning to understand why men twice his age obeyed him. Nathan didn't need certainty to act, but he demanded it before destroying someone. The house phone rang. Ethan answered, listened, then held it toward me. Staffing agency. I took it. Hello. A woman spoke quickly. Ms. Carter, your placement at Hawthorne House has been terminated effective immediately. I stared at Nathan. Who authorized that? Mr. Hawthorne's office. No. Nathan said before I even lowered the receiver. The line disconnected. Ethan was already tracing it. 5 minutes later, he turned his laptop around. Termination request was routed through an administrative proxy. Nathan's gaze hardened. Original hiring request. Ethan typed again, then stopped. That's strange. What? Emily wasn't randomly assigned here. My skin went cold. He opened the staffing record. 6 weeks before I had ever seen Hawthorne House, someone had flagged my application manually. Full name. Employee number. Priority placement. Nathan stepped beside me. Who requested her? Ethan checked the authorization trail. His face changed. Internal account. Whose? A pause. Richard Hayes's office. I stopped twisting my ring. Richard hadn't merely leaked information about Nathan. He had chosen me. And now that the attempt inside Nathan's bedroom had failed, someone was trying to make me disappear from the house before we discovered why. Your father was being watched before he died. Nathan turned the old surveillance authorization toward me. My name wasn't on the page. My father's was. Michael Carter. For a moment, I couldn't hear anything except my own breathing. Where did you get this? Archive. Whose archive? Mine. The answer hit harder than I expected. I pushed away from the table. You told me you didn't know him. I didn't. But your people followed him. Someone in my organization authorized surveillance. Nathan tapped the code beneath the order. RH4. Richard Hayes. My thumb twisted the silver ring until the edge hurt. Start from the beginning. Nathan opened another file. Your father worked for Riverside Logistics. He was an accountant. Riverside was partially controlled through a Hawthorne holding company. I stared at him. Dad had complained about invoices, late nights, managers who couldn't add columns properly. Ordinary things. He worked for you? Indirectly. Did he know? Probably not. And 3 days after this surveillance order, he drove through a highway barrier. Nathan said nothing. That silence made anger rise in my throat. Did your organization kill my father? Ethan looked toward Nathan. Nathan never looked away from me. I don't know. That's convenient. It's the truth. You expect me to trust you? No, the answer stopped me. Nathan slid a ledger across the table. Don't believe me. Believe what we can prove. I looked down. Michael Carter appeared beside several accounting discrepancies. Dad had flagged payments leaving Riverside and resurfacing through companies I didn't recognize. Nathan pointed to 3. Romano-controlled shells. Victor Romano? Yes. The rival family currently watching me. My stomach tightened. Dad discovered someone stealing from you. from Hawthorne businesses and moving the money into Romano infrastructure. Richard, the surveillance order establishes that he knew Michael was looking, not that he killed him. Nathan's eyes held mine. Correct. I hated his precision. I also needed it. Ethan placed my staffing record beside the ledger. Richard's office requested your placement 6 weeks ago. Why wait 8 years? I asked. Nathan answered immediately. Because something changed. What? Your mother died 11 months ago. Cold moved through me. Leave her out of this. I'm not accusing her. His voice softened by almost nothing. I'm establishing timing. Mom had spent 8 years telling me Dad's death was an accident. She had never mentioned Hawthorne, Romano, Richard, any of it. Nathan turned another page. If Richard believed Michael left evidence, he may have assumed your mother had it. And after she died, he came looking at me. That is one possibility. A memory surfaced. My second morning at Hawthorne House. Richard entering the kitchen. Silver hair. Gentle smile. Emily Carter, isn't it? I had been impressed he knew the new maid's name. Now my skin crawled. He knew who I was before I met him. Nathan became still. What did he say? I told him. Every word. Ethan began searching the archived audit files again. Minutes passed. Then he stopped. Nathan. He turned the monitor. A sealed note had been attached to my father's final discrepancy report. Nathan opened it. One sentence appeared. If anything happens to me, Bluebird knows where the second ledger is. Nathan looked at me. Bluebird. My mouth went dry. I hadn't heard that word since Dad died. That's what he called me. So you know where the ledger is? No, Nathan studied my face and believed me. That frightened me almost as much as the note. My father had left evidence powerful enough for Richard to watch my family for 8 years. My mother had apparently hidden something from me. And someone had placed me inside a Mafia Boss's house because they thought I knew where it was. Nathan closed the file. Richard thinks you're the key. I looked at the sentence again. To what? Nathan's expression hardened. That's what we find before he does. If Richard helped kill my father, why are you still letting him walk through your house? Nathan didn't look away from the security monitor. Because a guilty man who thinks he's safe will show you everyone standing behind him. I hated the answer. I understood it anyway. By midnight, Nathan had turned his study into a trap. A fake financial ledger sat inside the wall safe, filled with fabricated routes, accounts, and transactions convincing enough to tempt someone already stealing from him. More importantly, Nathan had changed the safe code that afternoon. Richard received the new combination during a deliberately staged conversation. If he opened that safe tonight, there would be no innocent explanation. At 12:47 a.m., I sat beside Nathan in the security room. Ethan monitored 6 camera feeds. Nobody spoke. At 1:06, Richard appeared. My stomach tightened. He entered Nathan's study calmly. No hesitation. No searching. He walked directly to the safe. Entered the new code. Opened it. I stopped twisting my silver ring. Richard removed the fake ledger and photographed every page. He knows exactly what he wants, I whispered. Nathan's expression remained unreadable. Yes. Richard replaced everything perfectly and left. 23 minutes later, Ethan leaned toward his screen. Transmission. Nathan stood. Destination. Encrypted relay. Ethan typed quickly. Romano infrastructure. The room seemed to shrink. Richard had taken information planted only for him and sent it directly to Nathan's rival. I looked at Nathan. Now you have proof. Of the leak. What more do you need? The network. Frustration sharpened my voice. He had my father watched. He brought me here. He's feeding Victor Romano information. How much more are you willing to wait for? Nathan finally turned toward me. Richard has been inside my organization for 15 years. He knows routes, accounts, captains, judges, businesses. If I remove him tonight, every person working beneath him disappears before sunrise. Ethan had the access to make half of this possible too. And for one ugly second, I wondered whether Nathan trusted the wrong man. Nathan seemed to read it in my face. Ethan's credentials were cloned through Richard's relay. We verified his physical location against independent cameras for every breach. The suspicion died, but the warning remained. Richard had designed the network to make loyal men look guilty. So you keep smiling at him? I don't smile. Despite everything, I almost laughed. Almost. Nathan looked back at Richard's frozen image. I let him believe he still has choices. There was no anger in his voice. That was what made him frightening. He helped raise me after my father died. The admission caught me off guard. Richard, he taught me how this organization worked. He stood beside me when I took control. For the first time, I understood the betrayal beneath the investigation. Richard wasn't merely an employee. He was family, by every definition Nathan still allowed himself to have. I'm sorry. Nathan's gaze remained on the screen. Don't be. Ethan interrupted. There's another transmission. Nathan moved closer. Romano. No, Ethan's fingers raced over the keyboard. Different encryption. Different destination. Where? Internal routing architecture. Nathan's face changed. Barely. But I saw it. Can you trace it? Not without alerting whoever receives it. Nathan answered immediately. Then don't. I stared at him. You're letting it go? I'm letting it lead. Ethan isolated the traffic and began mapping the relay points. 1 node became 3. 3 became 7. All buried inside Hawthorne Communications. My skin went cold. Richard wasn't only sending secrets out. He had built something inside. Nathan leaned over Ethan's shoulder. How old are these nodes? Some were created almost 4 years ago. Before Luke died. Nathan went completely still. Richard's betrayal hadn't begun with my father's ledger. It hadn't begun with the missing gun. It had been growing inside Nathan's empire for years. What is it? I whispered. Nathan looked at the spreading network on the screen. Not what? His voice dropped. Who? 7 hidden channels blinked across the map. 7 possible people inside the Hawthorne organization waiting for Richard to activate them. Nathan straightened. Cold. Controlled. Already calculating his next move. He isn't just leaking information to Romano. I swallowed. Then what is he doing? Nathan stared at the internal network. He's building something. Ask Nathan who changed the route the night Luke died. Richard said it quietly as he passed me outside the conservatory. No threat. No explanation. Just 8 words designed to follow me long after he walked away. I found Nathan in his study 10 minutes later. Did you change Luke's route? His hand stopped above a document. Slowly he looked up. Richard spoke to you. Answer me. A pause. Yes. My stomach tightened. Why? We received intelligence that the original route was compromised. I changed it 40 minutes before departure. Who knew? 6 people. Richard. Yes. I stepped closer. And Luke. Nathan's expression became unreadable. He insisted on coming with me. What happened? Silence stretched between us. Someone was waiting on the replacement route. The words were controlled. Too controlled. The first vehicle was hit. Luke was in it. I stopped breathing. What time? Nathan looked toward the window. 2:13. Suddenly, every strange detail from that first night rearranged itself. The broken glass. His uneven breathing. His fingers crushing mine. Luke's name leaving his mouth while he fought something I couldn't see. That's why you wake up then. Nathan said nothing. He didn't need to. You blamed yourself. I made the decision. Someone leaked the route. I still changed it. Those aren't the same thing. His eyes found mine. They were to Luke. There it was. Not weakness. Guilt. 3 years of it, buried beneath tailored suits and a voice that never shook. I understood what Richard had done. He wanted me to ask you. Nathan's gaze sharpened. Why? Because he knew this would hurt you. I moved closer. Richard didn't only betray your organization. He let you believe his betrayal was your failure. Something shifted behind Nathan's eyes. I reached for his hand before I could think better of it. My palm rested over his. He went completely still. This wasn't 2:13 in the morning. He wasn't sedated. He wasn't trapped inside a nightmare. He could move away. He didn't. His fingers turned slowly beneath mine. For one breath, the Mafia Boss disappeared behind the man who had survived when his brother hadn't. Then Nathan's phone vibrated. His hand left mine instantly. He opened the message. Whatever softness had existed vanished. What? I asked. He turned the screen toward me. A photograph showed me leaving my old apartment building. My auburn hair was pulled back. Grocery bag in one hand. Silver ring visible on the other. That was weeks ago. Yes. Beneath the image was a message. You have something of mine. A second line appeared. Now I know what you have. My mouth went dry. The ledger. They think you have it. Nathan enlarged the photograph. In the reflection of a parked car stood a man holding a camera. Romano, one of his surveillance contractors. His phone rang. Ethan. Nathan listened for less than 20 seconds. How many? Pause. Track them. Do not engage. He ended the call. What happened? 6 Romano men crossed into Hawthorne territory 20 minutes ago. Because of me? Because Richard made them believe you can lead them to Michael's evidence. The answer should have frightened me. Instead, something else did. Nathan was already reaching for his jacket. Where are you going? Nowhere. He opened the study door. Ethan and two captains were waiting outside. 3 vehicles, Nathan ordered. Identical plates, staggered exits. Move Emily through the south route only after their surveillance commits. Ethan nodded. And Romano. Nathan's face became frighteningly calm. Call the neutral families. Freeze our port agreements with anyone moving his cargo. I want every route he depends on mapped before sunset. He wasn't going to stand beside me with a gun. He wasn't becoming my bodyguard. He was doing something far more dangerous. Nathan Hawthorne was moving the war itself. And as his entire organization shifted around a handful of quiet orders, I understood the real problem. Victor Romano thought I was Nathan's weakness. Nathan intended to make him regret noticing me. If Romano wants me frightened, I told Nathan, he's going to be disappointed. His voice came through the secure phone. Fear isn't the problem. Predictability is. 2 hours earlier, 3 identical black SUVs had left Hawthorne House through separate gates. I was inside the second. Romano's surveillance followed the first. Nathan never came with me. He stayed exactly where a mafia boss belonged, at the center of the board, moving everyone else. By the time I reached the secure apartment downtown, Romano's men were still following an empty vehicle north. Ethan confirmed the building was clear before I entered. Nathan called 5 minutes later. Inside. Yes. Doors secured. Yes. Good. That's all. Silence. Were you expecting something else? Maybe reassurance. You're safe. That sounded almost human. Another pause. Don't become accustomed to it. I smiled despite myself. Then his voice hardened. Emily, I moved you because I needed Romano committed to the wrong location. Not because I intend to lock you away. That mattered more than I wanted it to. Thank you for explaining. You demanded explanations. And you listened. Occasionally. The call ended. By midnight, Nathan had turned Romano's threat into a financial wound. He presented evidence of Romano's armed incursion to 3 neutral families. 2 shipping routes stopped accepting Romano-controlled cargo. A port contractor suspended access rather than risk violating territorial agreements. Nathan didn't chase the 6 men who had crossed into his territory. He made the decision that sent them expensive. I sat at the apartment table with copies of Dad's old records spread around me. If Richard believed I knew where the second ledger was, then Dad had expected something to survive him. Bluebird. I searched every page again. An old handwritten notation stopped me. Bluebird, First Federal, Box 411. My heart kicked. I called Nathan. I found Bluebird. His answer came instantly. Tell me. I read the line. Keys clicked in the background. Nathan was already putting people on it. 20 minutes later, he called back. The box existed. Existed. It was closed 11 months ago. My stomach tightened. Who accessed it? Silence. Nathan. Sarah Carter. I stood so fast my chair scraped the floor. My mother. She was an authorized signer. No. Mom knew nothing about Dad's work. Then someone wanted you to believe that. Anger rose immediately. Don't turn her into part of this. I'm not. His voice stayed controlled. I'm following your father's clue. I stared at the words Bluebird. Then a memory struck me. Mom in hospice. Her hand thin inside mine. Her voice barely above a whisper. Do you still remember what your father called you? Bluebird. Good. Never forget that. I had thought she was saying goodbye. She had been giving me instructions. The bank box wasn't the end, I whispered. What? Mom knew I couldn't access it after she died. Bluebird must lead somewhere else. I searched again. Another payment appeared 6 pages later. Bluebird Antiques, annual storage. Nathan traced it through one of his investigators. The business didn't exist. The storage account did. 8 years of payments. Cash. Same unit. Still active. My pulse accelerated. That's where she moved it. Possibly. You always say that. Because certainty before evidence gets people killed. I couldn't argue with that anymore. Then Nathan went silent. What? There's an access attempt attached to the unit. When? 2 weeks before you were hired. Cold moved through me. Richard hadn't brought me into Hawthorne House and then started searching for my father's evidence. He had already been searching. I twisted my silver ring. So he couldn't get inside. Apparently not. Then he hired me because he thought I could. Nathan's voice dropped. Yes. For 8 years, Mom hadn't hidden the truth from me because she was ashamed. She had kept me alive by making sure I didn't know enough to lead anyone to it. And now Richard had finally found the one person Michael Carter trusted to finish what he started. Me. Your father didn't leave you an inheritance, Nathan said. He left you a witness. The storage unit had been cleared for threats before I ever saw it. Nathan's men reviewed the cameras, checked the access logs, searched the surrounding units, and confirmed no one had entered since the failed attempt 2 weeks earlier. Only then did Nathan bring me inside. A faded blue blanket covered a steel case beneath an old desk. My silver ring turned beneath my thumb. Your choice, Nathan said. Not open it. Not hurry. My choice. I pulled away the blanket. Inside were photographs, bank statements, a flash drive, and one handwritten ledger. I recognized Dad's writing immediately. His sevens always had a line through them. My throat closed. Nathan crouched beside me without touching anything. The first records showed money moving from Hawthorne businesses into Romano shell companies. Then Richard's authorization code appeared. RH4. Again and again. I turned another page. A payment dated 2 days before Dad died. Vehicle maintenance. Brake assembly. My hand stopped. Emily. I'm fine. I wasn't. Dad's crash hadn't been bad luck on wet pavement. Someone had paid to make sure his car failed. Nathan read the supporting transaction. Richard financed it through an intermediary. I forced myself onward. 3 years later, the same network paid a security contractor 48 hours before Luke's convoy was attacked. Nathan became completely still. That's the route leak. It connects Richard to the contractor. His eyes stayed on the page. Keep going. The flash drive held the final piece. A pharmaceutical invoice for the sedative found in Nathan's glass. Purchased 12 days before I entered his bedroom. Suddenly, the entire first night made sense. The gun wasn't just stolen. Nathan looked at me. No. Richard wanted it planted on me. That's my conclusion. Ethan had already found the missing weapon sealed inside a maintenance locker assigned to the staff corridor, wrapped with one of my discarded cleaning cloths. Richard had been building a trail toward me before I ever heard the glass break. He had hired Michael Carter's daughter because he believed grief, old family clues, or simple curiosity would eventually lead me to the second ledger. When his search of the storage account failed, and he became convinced I had already recovered the evidence, he changed the plan. He drugged Nathan, removed Nathan's private weapon, and prepared to make the new Maid look like the intruder. If I disappeared afterward, I would become the perfect answer to every question. Except I had stayed. Nathan had held my hand. The hallway camera had recorded someone entering first. Richard's perfect frame had broken because of one thing he couldn't predict. Nathan's phone rang. He answered. Listened. His expression hardened. A pause. Lock external access manually. I'm coming back. He ended the call. What happened? Hawthorne House lost power. My stomach dropped. Accident. No. Ethan called again before Nathan could explain. I heard enough through the phone. Internal override. Security doors compromised. Multiple unauthorized movements. Nathan looked at me. The second transmission. I understood. Richard's internal network. Activated. By the time we reached the estate, emergency lights painted the halls red. Nathan became colder with every step. Ethan, divide the house into sectors. Cut internal communications. Loyal captains hold west access and operations. Nobody pursues alone. He wasn't fighting a riot. He was dismantling a coup room by room. Safe room, he told me. North corridor. The main hallway alarm sounded. Ethan checked his radio. North access is blocked. Service passage, I said. Nathan looked at me. Behind the old dining room. Staff use it for linens. His jaw tightened. Go. Ethan's second team will meet you at the far end. I slipped behind the narrow panel before he could change his mind. Halfway through, voices stopped me. Richard. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Nathan should have died with Luke, a man said. Richard answered calmly. That was the intention. My blood froze. And Carter. Michael learned too much. A pause. His daughter is making the same mistake. I leaned closer. My shoe touched a loose floorboard. Creak. Silence. I turned. Richard stood behind me. His eyes dropped to my phone, then to my face. Emily. He smiled without warmth. Your father should have taught you when to stop looking. Call Nathan, Richard said. I want him to hear what losing you costs. He took my phone and placed it on the dining table. 2 armed men stood behind him. Another guarded the corridor. Richard looked calm, but I had seen Nathan calm. This was different. Richard was pretending the room still belonged to him. You think I'm worth territory? I asked. No, his smile thinned. I think Nathan thinks you are. He wanted more than leverage. He wanted Nathan to surrender publicly. If the Mafia Boss traded Hawthorne territory for one woman, every captain watching would see weakness. Richard dialed Nathan. Eastern Docks, he said when Nathan answered. Transfer control, and Emily walks out. Silence. Then Nathan's voice came through the speaker. No, Richard's smile disappeared. You misunderstand your position. I understand it perfectly. The call ended. Richard stared at the phone. I almost smiled. He didn't know my recording had already uploaded. After Romano began watching me, Ethan had installed an encrypted backup on my phone. Richard could destroy the device. He couldn't erase what Nathan already had. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Richard grew restless. His men started checking their phones. No messages. No instructions. No reassurance. Somewhere beyond those walls, Nathan was dismantling Richard before coming for me. The dining room doors finally opened. Nathan entered alone. Black suit. Empty hands. No visible weapon. Richard raised his gun toward me. Stop. Nathan stopped. His eyes found mine for half a second. Enough to ask if I was hurt. Enough for me to answer without speaking. Then he looked at Richard. You wanted the docks. I still do. You lost them 43 minutes ago. Richard frowned. Nathan continued. The accounts financing your captains are frozen. Your communications network is isolated. Your confession was sent to every senior Hawthorne captain 12 minutes ago. Richard's face changed. What confession? I looked at my phone. Understanding reached him. Nathan's voice stayed quiet. Michael Carter. Luke. The coup. You said enough. Richard grabbed the phone and smashed it against the table. Nathan didn't blink. That was unnecessary. You think a recording changes anything? No. Evidence does. Nathan stepped forward once. Michael's ledger establishes your payments. The storage records establish motive. The sedative purchase connects you to my room. Your voice establishes intent. Richard glanced at his men. Neither moved. Romano will back me. Check. Richard pulled out his phone. Nothing. Nathan watched him discover the truth. Romano severed your channel 18 minutes ago. He knows you can no longer give him access to my organization. Richard's breathing changed. Nathan had removed his money, his allies, his communications, his political value. Only then had he entered the room. You came alone for her, Richard said. Nathan's gaze remained cold. Did I? A faint sound came from behind the wall. Richard turned instinctively. That was the mistake. Ethan and two loyal men emerged through the servants' passage. Richard swung his weapon toward me. Ethan was already positioned. Within seconds, Richard was disarmed and forced to the floor. His remaining men lowered their weapons. No reckless shootout. No heroic charge. Just the moment everyone realized Nathan had won before entering the room. Hours later, Romano opened negotiations after losing his internal access and two strategic routes. Nathan remained what he had always been, the Mafia Boss. At 2:13 a.m., I found him sitting on the edge of his bed. Awake. I sat beside him and reached for his hand. Nathan stopped me gently. You don't have to. I looked at him. That sentence meant more than he knew. The first night, he had held me without knowing. Since then, everyone had tried to turn me into something owned. Evidence. Leverage. Weakness. Nathan finally offered the one thing none of them had. Choice. I know. I placed my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine without pressure. The clock changed. 2:14 a.m. Nathan was still awake. No nightmare came. He looked at our joined hands, then at me. When this is over, you owe me nothing. Good, I said softly. Then if I come back, you'll know why. Something in his expression finally gave way. Not control, not caution, but the belief that either of them could substitute for choice. And for the first time since Luke died, the past did not decide what happened next. The first time I entered Nathan Hawthorne's bedroom, I broke the one rule everyone in his house was afraid to test. 3 months later, the door was open. I stood in the hallway after midnight, still wearing navy scrubs from my clinical rotation. Nathan sat beside the window with a financial report in one hand. Same black hair, same dark eyes, same quiet authority that could make dangerous men reconsider their decisions without him raising his voice. Richard was gone. His internal network had been dismantled. Michael Carter's ledger had exposed the accounts, payments, contractors, and hidden loyalties Richard spent years building. Victor Romano still controlled his family. Nathan still controlled his. There was no peace between them. Only terms. Romano relinquished 2 strategic routes, withdrew his remaining people from Hawthorne territory, and lost the intelligence network that had once given him access inside Nathan's organization. Nathan had won without becoming reckless. If anything, betrayal had made him more precise. His eyes lifted from the report. "You're late." I leaned against the doorway. "I don't work for you anymore." "I'm aware." "Then stop monitoring my schedule." "I wasn't monitoring it. You knew I was late. You complain about Thursday clinicals every Wednesday." I stared at him. The corner of his mouth moved. Barely. Nathan Hawthorne's version of laughter. I had returned to nursing school 6 weeks earlier. Nathan offered to pay my tuition once. I refused. He never offered again. No pressure. No secret payment. No attempt to turn generosity into ownership. That mattered more than the money could have. I stepped across the threshold. Not as his maid. Not as his employee. Not because Richard had arranged for me to enter this house. Because I chose to. Later, city lights painted pale lines across the ceiling. I opened my eyes and saw the clock. 2:13 a.m. beside me. Nathan was already awake. No broken glass. No drugged water. No violent breath. His hand rested beside mine. Close enough to touch, but not holding it. I smiled. "Do you remember?" "Everything. You terrified me. You entered my bedroom without permission. You were unconscious." An inconvenient detail. I laughed softly. Then I slipped my fingers through his. He looked down at our hands. "The first time, you wouldn't let go." I was sedated. "Still counts." His thumb moved once across my knuckles. My gaze shifted toward the doorway. Open. Months ago, that door had represented everything Nathan believed about power. Control who entered. Control who knew. Control who came close enough to hurt you. Richard had understood that weakness and built his betrayal around it. But he had misunderstood one thing. Caring about me had not made Nathan weaker. It had forced him to learn the difference between protection and possession. The clock changed to 2:14. Nothing happened. Luke's memory did not drag him backward. Nathan simply breathed. "Emily." "What?" "Stay." Once, that word from Nathan Hawthorne would have sounded like an order. Tonight, it didn't. I could leave. He knew it. More importantly, he would let me. I was planning to. His fingers closed gently around mine. Outside those windows, he was still the Mafia Boss. Men still feared his name. Rivals still measured their choices against his response. I had never changed that man into someone harmless. I had only learned there was something beneath his control that power could never satisfy. I finally understood the question that started everything. Who let her into his room? Nobody. The first time, danger opened the door. I walked through because I heard glass break. After that, truth kept bringing us back to each other. Tonight, Nathan had left the door open before I arrived. He could command an empire. He could make enemies retreat and loyal men obey. But power could never give him the one thing he had finally learned not to demand. Someone who stayed because she was free to leave.